Hello, and welcome to Totally Schway Flipside, a podcast about whatever the hell I want it to be about. My name is Mary,
My name is Luke.
and today is the day we get to talk about how much we love Clancy Brown. Lex Luthor. We're talking about the Lex Luthor, some of our favorite ones, I think. I know this. I totally prepared for this. Even though this is the third time I've done the introduction. So, first off, how are you guys doing today? I don't know if you guys have seen any of the pictures up in Luke's office or not. He's got plenty of them. I'm afraid to count. But there's one of the Joker from The Killing Joke. And I often stare at that when I am doing this podcast, just so you guys know. How are you, Luke?
Yeah, I'm generally okay, thanks.
So, you just want to get straight into it? Do you want to tell me what we've done today, or
What have we done today? I didn't know this was part of the agenda, that I'd have to think about what I'd done previously.
We tried to take over the world, but then we saw that we stepped outside and we just decided, hey, let's go see Mickey 17 and then come back home.
But that's not what this podcast's about.
Yeah, that was our day. So yeah, let's start talking about Lex Luthor. When you think of Lex Luthor, who do you think of?
Well, I think of Clancy Brown, of course, because I'm the guy that has the YouTube channel dedicated to the DC Animated Universe versions. But
my next question,
okay,
who is the first Lex Luthor that you saw?
It was Gene Hackman.
Yeah. I think that's either Schway or Hackman for me. But probably Hackman.
So Michael Schway in what's his name? Isn't it Michael Schway? I think it is.
So.
I think it is. Someone will correct us if we're wrong. But he was in the Lois and Clark show with Terry Hatcher and the other Superman that people don't really talk about much anymore.
I'm drawing a blank there. Yeah. So when I was younger, the Superman movies would come on like those old afternoon movies they'd play on like the WB, or I think by that time it was UPN. Shout out to anybody that actually remembers the crossover from WB to UPN and the UPN to CW. Hard times. But they would play the older Superman movies, and me just sitting there always had to have music or TV in the background. And I would catch. It's just that voice, because other than Clancy Brown, I think it's that Gene Hackman's voice that I hear. And it's the way that he. It was such a different Luthor, but still, it was kooky, but still on point. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, it does. He's obviously had his real voice. But it was the inflection in his voice, the way that he said things, the kind of words that he would use as well. The fact that he would be like perfectly normal 1 minute, and then he'd be like very quick to anger and shouting.
Yeah. But that's Luthor.
Yeah.
And no matter what iteration that I've seen of Lex Luthor, there's that like mercurial kind of attitude, and the two people that I think have done it perfectly. Because I'm not gonna say Michael Rosenbaum just like right now, because I've only seen one episode of Smallville for now. I will watch more of it because of him. Well, so if he has left it at any point, that's what I'm gonna stop watching.
Hang on a minute. You're forgetting about his greatest performance as Lex Luthor.
Oh my God, yes!
In the Great Brain Robbery.
Okay, so
where
I changed my mind.
Finally, I'll figure out who the Flash is. Takes the mask off, looks at himself in the mirror. I have no idea who this is.
Yeah. So yeah, when I think of Lex Luthor, it's Gene Hackman, obviously Clancy Brown. Yeah, those are the two that I think of.
What do you think of Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor from the Snyder movies?
See, I like Jesse Eisenberg. As I don't know a lot about him in his personal life or anything like that, but I like a lot of the stuff that he's been in because it was at a time where people were just doing the same thing over and over. You know, it was that time where the, the sequels were coming out. You know, it was just like Fast and the Furious 85. Nothing wrong with Fast and the Furious, by the way, but I'm just saying this was it was a bit of fresh air when he came up from the water as Luthor, and not Aquaman. It was different. It wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't. It was not bad at all. I think some people didn't like it because I think the people that didn't like it probably were a bit younger than us because they don't have a lot of they've not read the comics, they've not watched a lot of other stuff in it.
Wow.
Whereas and it was one film that, yes, Jesse Eisenberg was playing a little bit of Jesse Eisenberg, but that in itself makes a great Luthor.
I think it was very much a millennial Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I actually think it was older people that didn't really care for Jesse Eisenberg because Lex Luthor is supposed to be like this. There's supposed to be like this contrast between Lex Luthor, who is getting older, but he was like the man who had the vice grip on Metropolis, and then Superman, this young hero, upstart, completely outshines him, and in his eyes invalidates his whole life's work. That element is lost when you have much younger Lex Luthor. But that's not a problem. I remember some people trying to convince me. I don't know if they'd listen to this podcast. They probably don't, but if they do, sorry if it sounds like I'm having a go. I promise I'm not. But they tried to convince me that his father was the real Lex Luthor and that Jesse Eisenberg was just playing Lex Luthor's son. And I was like, no, because his name is Lex Luthor.
You know, I'm just going to say this. I'm one of those people that look for meanings in movies sometimes just because that's neurodivergence. But sometimes, if it's Lex Luthor, it's Lex Luthor, it's Lex Luthor. It doesn't have to be some... I'd never heard that before, by the way, but it doesn't have to be some... It doesn't have to be on so many different levels. It can be on the 2 levels that it is. Lex Luthor is evil, and then Lex Luthor is a billionaire.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was actually a very canny move casting Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, considering he was supposed to be like a Mark Zuckerberg type.
Yeah.
And Jesse Eisenberg played Mark Zuckerberg in, what was it called, Social Network?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So automatically that's where, if you're familiar with his career, then that's where your mind goes when you're looking at the performance. You're going, okay, it's going through like the tech bro lens rather than, 1980s yuppie capitalisty type.
See, I like Jesse Eisenberg as an actor. Again, I don't know a lot about like personal life or whatever. I don't care. And I think the way that he played Luthor, although it was different and unexpected, I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
And it's because I think Jesse Eisenberg, he really puts a lot into his roles, but he still keeps that Jesse Eisenberg in there. And I think it's really... words are failing me now, but I really like the fact that he still has a bit of him in there. And I'm going to circle this back to Gene Hackman. And there's a reason why I wanted to bring up Jesse Eisenberg now rather than wait till later. Because both of them, I think, 2 completely different Luthors. Like, if you would change their names and everything, they could have been 2 completely different characters. But I love that because Hackman did it in the 70s. And at the beginning of the 2010s, Eisenberg did it. And it's 2 different ways of acting for 2 different generations and 2 different decades. And it was great. But they still had that amazing Lex. Like, they both got that assignment, but they made it their own. And if that were me, and I was, like, casting for something, which I probably just, cast the same 3 people over and over again, I would have never have just thought in my head, oh my God, Gene Hackman. But then when you watch it, you're like, well, duh. Or like, oh, Jesse Eisenberg? What? You mean Mark Zuckerberg? Well, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Because that is our type of billionaire these days. Whereas, it was different from like Clancy Brown's version too. Different type of billionaire for different type of decade.
Yes. Yeah. So what do you think are some qualities that make a character, or I should say a performance, Lex Luthor? Like, if you're looking at any performance as Lex Luthor, what qualities should it have?
So you should be able to go from ice cold to burning hot in terms of the mood, very like instantly. That mercurial attitude from where it's like, oh hey, I'm gonna be really nice, and then oh, I'm gonna look at you and I'm just gonna go ah. You need that. But I also think that the character or the actor that is playing the character needs to be intelligent.
Okay.
And I say this because Lex, even if you're playing a funny Lex, or you're playing a really like evil, I'm gonna rule the world, kryptonite in my fingernails. You have to be intelligent because this character is in this universe and in all of the Superman universe is one of the smartest people, one of the smartest characters.
Mm-hmm.
Although they make dumb decisions, but most smart people do. And if you don't understand that and you're just, acting it out, I think you'd be able to tell. And it would be very dull because you would have that, you would have the sea, but you don't have the fish.
Okay, I see.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You got the outside, but you need some of the inside. I hope my references are getting out there today, but those two people, Gene Hackman and Jesse Eisenberg, were really highly, I almost swore there. They're very highly intelligent people. And they played Lex like perfectly. Now I'm gonna say this. They weren't my favorite Lex Luthors. I'm not saying any of these Lex Luthors are bad, by the way, because I like most of the characters or most of the actors that played Lex.
I don't know that there has been a bad Lex Luthor. I can't really think of him off the top of my head. You can have like the cartoony Lex Luthor of the Super Friends.
Yeah.
But even then, he was for that type of show and what that show was,
and the
he
decade
served the
that
purpose.
it was in.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about the actors that play this. That's part of the intelligence of it, because Jesse Eisenberg couldn't have just played Michael Schway, and Michael Schway couldn't have just done Gene Hackman, because was it different strokes for different folks? That kind of comes to mind because of obviously it's a generational thing and like a decade thing and all of that. But there's one person that stands the test of time. And you know who I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about in depth because we are going to have a whole podcast about them.
I was going to make a joke, then I'm not doing it.
Clancy Brown.
Yeah, of course it is.
I was waiting for some suspense, but I was like, no.
You weren't going to be saying Kevin Spacey, let's put it that way.
No, I told him not to actually mention Kevin Spacey. But,
that was going to be my joke. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Clancy Brown started playing Lex Luthor in 94?
Probably. 94, 95.
Yeah, 94, like 95. That's 30 years ago. 31 years ago, right? If I'm doing my math right. Yep. I still want him to be Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I mean, when was the last time he played Lex Luthor? I know he was Lex Luthor in the Lego games.
It's just he stands the test of time.
Yeah.
I think most things that Clancy Brown does will stand the test of time, but especially with this character. And I say this because you have, decades of this character and over multiple decades. And especially with from Superman the Animated Series to Justice League Unlimited, what did you see? If you could think of one word to describe what happened to Lex, what would it be? Mine would be growth.
I was going to say that evolution.
Yeah, evolution. Oh yes,
because he talks about evolution a lot.
Yeah, the evolution, and he goes from billionaire buck wild guy in a sense of like he doesn't want to listen to the rules or anything like that, to okay, somewhat okay guy, to in the end he's evolved and he's kind of a little bit of all of that still. And I really wish we would have seen a lot more than that to see like the outcome. But we watched an episode last night that actually put it into perfect. It was a perfect description. It's like we're not meant to see the end or something like that. It was when he was when Amazo had come back for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about evolution and how we might not see what happens, but it's the fact that it happens.
Yeah.
And
that's the purpose of life.
Yeah. And Clancy Brown's phenomenal acting showed us Lex's evolution. And I am so grateful for that, because you see that even though that this is a character, a comic book character, a cartoon character, it's a character. People grow. People can do bad things, rehabilitate, and make better choices. We might not agree with all of them, but we still can see somewhat of a rehabilitation. And that, my friends, is evolution of the mind. And Clancy Brown, I'm going to say Clancy Brown again. Clancy Brown, his performance, there's no words I can say that make it like, it was the best for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of spoiling the episode of Totally Schway a little bit, but maybe we'll stick to more like narrative style descriptions for that one.
I don't care, because
you don't care.
I really don't, because I love. There's a whole thing about, when you find a character that you love, and I remember this happens like in a lot of old books that I read when I was younger. I would just cling on to a character that. And I think it's always been like that, because I really love books that are like coming of age and stuff like that. And it's always the evolution of the character that's my favorite. And in a lot of these, with Lex Luthor, you have sequels, you have multiple episode arcs and everything. And yes, most of the time you can see the evolution, but Clancy did it the best. And you can't deny that. And if you do,
you're a liar.
Bye. Yeah, I would have loved to see that with Jesse Eisenberg's performance. Mm-hmm. If they would have had him in more. Because I think if they would have had him in another one, man, I think, although his performance was really good in Batman versus Superman, I think we would have started to, because he has to have been a fan of Clancy Brown. He has to have been a fan, because he grew up in that time, didn't he? Because he's our age, isn't he?
Yeah. Don't know that he watched Superman, though. He might not have. So.
We had a little bit of a pause there, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. And I was just thinking, because I wanted to say something about Gene Hackman's performance.
Oh, yeah, we're going to go back to Gene.
All right, let's go back to Gene Hackman. So one of the things I really liked is... So one of the... Let me rewind even further. So something that people say you need to have as Lex Luthor is baldness. But I don't agree.
Oh.
He doesn't have to be bald.
Because he's not always bald in the comics. Most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time he is bald. Apart from that time in the 90s where he cloned himself and he had a big mane of red hair and a massive beard. Compensating. That's what that's called.
Yeah.
But one of the things I really liked about Gene Hackman's performance is they implied that he was wearing a wig because they would style his hair in different ways between scenes. Mm-hmm. So that it looked like that he had a different hairpiece on. It was all his own remaining natural hair. Mm-hmm. And I say remaining because something I have learned is that when your hair is thinning, if you cut it very short, it won't grow back. So Gene Hackman's like, I'm not shaving my head because my hair will not come back.
But that was just, I think up until his last performance, was it in 2004?
Something like that.
Not the same exact hairstyle, but very similar, and it suited him.
Well, that's yeah. I mean, he how can I say this? He played the cards he was dealt in terms of his hairstyle.
Don't we all?
Yeah, well, certainly I
Don't
do.
we all?
But I really liked that they, they comb his hair one way, and then the next scene comb it another way, and then they comb it back, and it all just it gave the impression that he was bald. Now I know at the end of the film there's a bit where he's got a bald cap on. He goes, "Hi, Lex Luthor," and takes a wig off. Yeah, come on, everyone recognizes you, Gene Hackman. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You don't need to announce yourself in the room. But yeah, I really just wanted to say that one of the complaints about Jesse Eisenberg as well is that he had hair. I'm like, come on.
But he was also playing a very young Luthor. We don't exactly know when Luthor. Excuse me, Luthor. How did I say? It's because I've been listening to the song Luthor a lot.
Yeah.
He was young. Like he was playing a younger Luthor.
Plus, they shaved his head at the end of the film when he went to prison. But I don't think that's a thing they do in prison, though, most of the time. Unless you're on... no, not even on death row. Unless it's like a lice-infested prison, which maybe it was.
I mean, I don't know much about prisons, thankfully.
Your Honor.
I don't know much about prison. I've done a few bad things, but not that bad.
I kind of lost track where I was going when I was talking about the hair. And, they did the same thing with John Shea in Lois and Clark. I keep doubting his name every time we bring him up. I'm like,
I have it.
Is it Michael Shea? It's John Shea.
It's John Shea, Jon, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Michael Shea.
But he was not bald until very late in the series, and that was supposed to be like a big moment.
Oh, I was even wrong. I was thinking about John Cryer with the Jon. It's John.
Okay.
Shea. Sorry, John. Mr. Shea.
But yeah, so basically my point was he doesn't have to be bald. He can be, absolutely can be.
It's like, when you look at it, in a lot of the cartoons, I'll give you a good example of what I'm trying to talk about. I don't think it happened to Lex very much at all, if anything. But if you look at Batman from BTAS, right? And then you look at Batman, New Adventures of Batman and Robin, and then you look at Justice League, and they look at Bruce Wayne. He's different. Like, he is physically different in those. So why can't Lex Luthor not be bald?
Yes, I completely agree with what you're saying.
Like, the character can be the same character, but look different.
Yes, you can have...
They even act different sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. There's not like one universal version. I mean, if there was, we'd probably be stuck with like the Superboy version, which actually was the one that was in Smallville, where Lex Luthor grew up as a childhood friend of Clark Kent in Smallville, and he blamed his baldness on Superboy.
Are you going to tell people as well that don't like him being bald that guess what happened in one of the episodes of Superman the Animated Series to Superman and his face? He had a beard.
Oh, right. Superman can't grow his hair out and have a beard. It's impossible. Everyone must look the same.
That's probably why, isn't it?
Yeah.
He does the to do his beard. Like, the only thing that can cut it is his.
But at that point, he was under a red sun, so he didn't have his impossibly strong hair. But he didn't have a razor.
That's true.
He was in a post-apocalyptic landscape. What was he going to do?
Anything to do with Lex, though.
No, it's true. So what's your excuse, Jesse Eisenberg? Damn it.
To be fair, Jesse Eisenberg does have a good mop. He really does. Like, I am jealous because he's got hair like my mom, because it's quite curly. I have straight, thin hair. You know what? I should just shave off my head again. Shave off my head again.
Shave off your head, yes.
Again.
Off with her head.
Yeah. Just thinking about it like, hey, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
No, characters can look different. Characters can be different.
Yeah. Do you know, one version that I haven't talked about before, I don't think, is the version of Lex Luthor in Harley Quinn, the animated series. Now, you've not seen this, but he is very much played as like your 2020s insecure tech bro loser who he gets like calf implants so that his calf muscles look bigger because he feels like his calves look small compared to Superman's.
Nothing wrong with that.
Well, I would just say if you want bigger calf muscles, then work on
He didn't. He hadn't been working out.
Well, he worked out as well, but he got the implants to make him look even more impressive, and he could pump them up. And he over pumped them to his calves burst.
I've got quite big calf muscles, so I wouldn't have to do that. I think it's the only thing I wouldn't have to do in life is to get calf implants. It gets from carrying all the load around.
But I quite like that version, and a lot of people don't like it because it's not. They say it mocks the source material, but it's lovingly mocking. The whole show is a loving, playful mockery of the source material.
But it's also a different decade, a different time.
Yeah, there's absolutely no point in doing exactly the same thing over and 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 over again.
Boring. Even some of the same actors who play the same characters for like 10 plus years start to play them a little differently. And that's what I'll have to say about that. Let's talk. So, who's been in. Who's played Lex the most?
Probably Clancy Brown.
Yeah. I know who's played Lex the least. But still one of my favorites.
Go on then.
Michael Rosenbaum, of course.
Oh, yeah, I don't think he's played him. At least he was in a lot of episodes of Smallville.
Oh, I was talking about the animated one in my head. I apologize.
Oh, okay, I see.
I apologize.
So you're saying in animation?
Yeah, in animation.
But you're not, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, who is... I mean, Jesse Eisenberg was briefly in Justice League as well, so I think maybe the person who's played him the least is probably Kevin Spacey. Sorry to mention him again. So should we move on from that part of the topic?
Yeah, because if you do that again, I'm going to go get my face cream and put it on your face.
Oh, don't do that. That's disgusting. I don't know. What else do you want to talk about with Lex Luthor? Because I feel like I've said most of what I want to say.
Yeah, I think I have too. Let's have a little bit of a shorter episode this time. Let's go to the comments.
I mean, it probably won't be much shorter because we've got long comments to get through.
By the way, I want to mention this. I got a message from Doc, like an email. I will reply to that, by the way, but I'm doing it in sections, just because it's I want to say that I've been really busy, but I am not so busy, and it's the ADHD that makes me not reply to emails when I should, because I'll have already, because I'm replying to one email, I'm like, oh no, I've replied to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true. So I will reply to that. I've got it up on my computer when I turn it on. I have no idea why the comments are not going through. And I've said this many times.
It's a YouTube thing.
And I'm just like, I am so sorry if you've put a comment out and it hasn't actually gone through. You can email me the comment and I will reply to it. It might take like a couple of days or a week or something, but I will reply to it. If you want to do it that way and it doesn't show up, or if you don't hear us say it. So I apologize if that's happening. And the second thing, I guess, I want to talk about is on one of the Totally Schway episodes, we got a message from YouTube. So if there is a part of a comment that isn't read out, that's why.
I'll explain it. So basically, they limited our monetization because somebody in one of their comments talked about wanting someone dead, and that is against YouTube's policies, even though I was reading a remark from somebody not endorsing it.
Yeah, so
I successfully appealed it, but what Mary's saying is, if you must write anything that is full of ill wishes towards someone, we're not going to read it out. We'll skip over that part.
Yeah, we're not going to skip over the whole comment, but just over that part. And we know that Big Mikey P would never do anything.
I didn't name anyone that was responsible, but Mary, she's outed him. It was Big Mikey P. Yeah. He ruined everything.
You know what they said? Like, Luke typed something to them, and a couple hours later, they were like, okay.
I mean, it was really just click a button.
Literally. I know for a fact that Big Mikey P, Captain Alice's Doc, Screen Wiper,
Julia Rowell.
Yes, Julia Rowell. I was literally like thinking of, I was just watched their videos, like, because I wanted to watch some of the Marvel ones again. And I was like, I just did that yesterday. By the way, great job on your videos. Please keep doing them. But yeah, we know you guys and gals would never want to actually hurt somebody, but because YouTube is very strict, and there's good reason it's strict, that part of the comments won't be in there.
Yeah. So I want to move on. So from the last episode, there was one comment that didn't show up in my list, even though I refreshed it multiple times, but I've managed to find it now. And it was actually from Julia Rowell. So I'm going to read that one out now before moving on to the last episodes.
Before we actually read the comment, go check out their videos. They do really great videos.
Okay, so here's the comment. It says, "Hey, Mary Marvel, an absolute grimdark, burn the goddamn money Batman. It's maybe I should legally change my name to that.
Yeah.
It's me, Julia Rowell, True Believers, and I want to talk about stuff from 90s cartoons I really like. My first love is X-Men, mostly because it got me into reading comics, mainly Marvel comics. I'm really for the Chris Claremont run and later Grant Morrison's new X-Men in the 2000s. But the 92 X-Men cartoon, I really got into the love triangle with Cyclops, Jean and Wolverine and Rogue and Gambit, also Xavier and Leandra of the Shi'ar Empire. I got into the loves of the X-Men because of the show. I watched every episode to see what was going to happen and what new characters would show up next. For me, it's the best thing ever. My second best is Spider-Man 94, and I love the soap opera of Peter Parker's love affairs with Felicia Hardy and Mary Jane Watson. His life as a college student and working for Jameson at the Bugle. I like that as a regular person, Peter was such a loser, but as Spider-Man, I wanted him to catch a win every now and then. I laughed at the jokes. I loved his tram-ups. I wonder what that was. Probably a typo. I apologise if I've misunderstood. And felt like a believable character to me growing up. Over Batman and Superman, who just seemed perfect and flawless and rarely made mistakes, the Marvel toons have a special place in my heart because of the writing, and how they adapted the comics that got me into reading these comics to this day. I'm not a fan of high school Peter. I like grown-up adult Peter going to college and working a job just to help his Aunt May as best he can. They're timeless, and that's why I like these characters. Meanwhile, on the DC animated series side, I watched Batman the Animated Series too as a kid. Both were on the same channel on Fox Kids. As a kid, I really got into the storytelling and art style of the show. I feel like I watched BTAS for the creature feature episodes Werewolf, Man-Bat, Clayface, Killer Croc, Poison Ivy. But I did love Harley Quinn and Ivy episodes, and I loved the stuff with Robin and Batgirl. I like the goody episodes like Critters and Christmas with the Joker and stuff like Ra's al Ghul and Talia. Most of this stuck with me more than anything else. And while Superman the Animated Series was my gateway into reading Superman comics in the 90s and my interest in Jack Kirby Fourth World, like a baby duck, it inspired me, I think, and felt larger than life, and I like the characters to this day. Other 90s shows I watched a lot really got me into reading other comics outside of DC and Marvel are things like The Max, that was on MTV.
Yeah.
And I love the art style of that show, and I really like the story. It's a character I wish had action figure of. I had an action figure of to this day. I know Todd McFarlane did a Max action figure years ago.
You know why?
Why's that?
Well, I think one of the reasons is because he did a the Max and Spawn. I think it was a few issues of that.
So,
or was that just one?
The Max was published by Image Comics, which Todd McFarlane was one of the co-founders of. So
okay, cool, yeah. But I didn't know that until about, I think, 2 years ago.
Yeah. And
I would like to get them, but I just keep forgetting when I look for other comics.
Sam Keith's art is very distinctive, isn't it?
I like it a lot.
And I watched Eon Flux because I really love the art design and animation. I really like the storyline and how the show was weird, but I still love it. And I watched a lot of what's this? Dora. because some days I feel like Dora lol. And non-Marvel DC stuff I love to this day are the Street Fighter cartoon because I love the movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia from '94. I watched Jim Lee's Wildcats cartoon. That got me into Wildstorm comics and Eric Larsen's Savage Dragon cartoon, based on an Image comic I still read to this day. I love the humor of the show. It kind of reminds me of it says Helvet and the Ultra Force cartoon was my intro to 90s comics. It was cheesy, camp, and weird, but I liked the character of Topaz, Ghoul, Lord Pumpkin, and Rune, to name but a few. Oh, Rune. I used to read Rune. Barry Windsor Smith. Malibu stuff, yeah. For me, 90s cartoons hit different. I love any of them. Sorry for talking your ears off, but I get really excited about this stuff because it was my gateway into comics. Get well soon, Mary Marvel and Catman Luke.
Never ever apologize for talking our ear off. I've just got on the iPad trying to find these things that I was talking about, the Max Spawn issues. Oh, and speaking of Eon Flux, I always talk about, I don't always, but I do frequently mention that Luke has a lot of BTAS art. And I have started to get little bits, and Luke has actually got me a nice little Eon Flux is it from Mondo?
Yeah, Mondo recently did a print.
But what's cool about this, the reason I'm mentioning it is because it is got this like holographic type thing on it.
Yeah, like foil.
And it's so 90s.
Hmm.
And like how she's like upside down, as she usually is when she's doing some of her action bits. And it's just so, it reminds me of like a renaissance in my head of what cartoons, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like especially around that time. So I'm so glad somebody shares that interest with me.
I've never watched Eon Flux, so when Mary showed me the print and said she wanted it, I was like, why do you want a picture of a lady with her butt out? She's like, that's Eon Flux.
And then I show you the Saletti print, not the Saletti print, the Saletti vase, which is...
yes.
If anybody wants to know what I'm talking about, type in Saletti number 2 card.
Okay. So, on to the comments from last time's episode. Yeah. I can't remember what we spoke about last time. It was Batman music, wasn't it? I think. Up first, we have Lowell Lucas Jr., who says, hey, today it's totally Schway coming your way on a musical Sunday. Mary's feeling great today.
Yeah.
Thank you all for the wonderful encouragement and cheer. Mary, I hope you're feeling better, and you must thank that brainiac you married as he was running multiple videos into perfection and keeping his sweetie happy, all while whispering his return to a rich bald guy threatening a talking gorilla. By the way, Brainy Luke, maybe I'll change my name to that. Really enjoyed your Professor Pig video. Hope they make him an amalgamation of Beware/comics versions as a hulking brute performing grotesque surgeries with Mr. Toad as his right-hand man feels fitting, much like Dr. Frankenstein with his very own Igor. Honestly, I appreciate the hell out of Shirley Walker with her and the other great ensemble of composers behind BTAS, especially A Bullet for Bullock. Danny Elfman may have given us the iconic theme, but it's these other geniuses behind the music that carries the series. Also, yes, Mary, Prince friggin' rocks, always, dated or not. Now, there's a lot of composers that contribute to the Bat, but one I want to give a shout out to, the Music Meister from Brave and the Bold, as its music stylings and forcing everyone to break into dance was delightfully awesome. Neil Patrick Harris played the Music Meister, and he was mostly singing in that performance. I don't think you've ever seen that episode, have you, Mary?
No, I don't think
I watched it the other day. Or the other week, or maybe it was more than a month ago. I can't remember. Time is a construct, everybody. It is what you make of it. Thank you all for the great coverage as always, and hope you feel better, Mary. Sinus season's coming, so make sure you hold the door against the enemy. I'll be resting my eyes again, so keep me in prayers.
I'm always happy to see you when you guys are feeling better. As for me feeling better, I am better, but I will tell you something. Allergy season, like you just said, is coming up. If you get I got like this really inexpensive facial steamer off of Amazon.
Yeah.
And within 2 days I could hear out of like my weird ear, and I could breathe again. So I honestly recommend that. And rosemary oil, I think it was. Because it's in a lot of like nasal sprays. Totally riveting conversation here. But if anybody has any issues with that, especially here like in the UK, like we're very much city people, and it doesn't matter where you live. There's going to be like 18 different types of flowers, 45 different types of plants, car exhaust, uh, and cat dander.
Right. Next comment. I'm moving on to Big Mikey P's comment. If there are any more violent threats in here, Big Mikey P, I'm skipping over them.
By the way,
okay, next comment. I am joking.
He's joking. We love Mikey P.
So for Batman franchise music, certain tracks from the 1966, 1989 and Return to the Animated Series and beyond, and even Superman the Animated Series, Begins in the Dark Knight, 2004, The Brave and the Bold, and Arkham Asylum, City, Origins, Night, and Shadow. There are others, but I can't put my finger on their titles yet. To this day, I'm impressed on how the Prince music, which I don't think is dated would be the MTV trappings of Joel Schumacher's films.
Oh God, yeah.
And aesthetic fits so well in Batman 1989. Can even admit that Jack Nicholson's Joker is growing on me the same way that as Jeff Bennett's The Brave and the Bold Joker. If only Billy D. Williams, otherwise known as Lando Calrissian in Star Wars Episodes 5 and 6, stayed as Two-Face for Batman Forever. He would have fit more than the miscasted Tommy Lee Jones. And heck, when I've read that Peter David novelization, I'd rather see and hear Billy's potential performances when perusing the Two-Face moments. Don't know why I was going to say pursuing. My brain kept saying, say pursuing. Like, no, that's not the word. Anyway, if I have a Japanese equivalent to Danny Elfman, there's probably Yuji Kajiura. Kajiura, yeah.
Again, I never say it right.
Kajiura. There we go.
Beautiful.
One can hear the same electric guitars, percussion beats, and catchy rago, a catchy gibberish mix of Latin, Italian, Spanish, and maybe some Japanese chants in different stuff like Noir, Madlax, El Cazador de la Bruja, Xenosaga, Puella, Magi, Madoka Magica, Fate Zero, and Princess Principal. However, in my opinion, her music is more likely to stay earworthy mystical than Elfman's, at least to me. And they also count as, for a lack of better terms for Mary, ballerina music, just as much as the latter mentioned flawed DCEU tracks, now that I think about it. You know, had Tim Burton made more Batman movies, Robin could have played a part, could have been played by Marlon Wayans. Some may know the name from Scary Movie's directorial.
Gosh.
Yeah, he was originally cast as Robin.
I could see that. Like, I could actually see that. I didn't know this, by the way.
Oh, well, fair enough. This became ascended canon for the Batman 89 comics by Sam Hamm, which decanonized the Schumacher films and not even Peter David's Batman Forever, like it or not. If only Shirley Walker's apprentices Ramis McQuistion and Carter are worthy successors. Sure, they've got some hits, but remember that they never got entire playlists of legit replayable masterpieces. They also didn't have the resources that Shirley Walker had available to her, so they are kind of limited in what they can do. I think they are very talented and very they have done some very memorable tracks, but I do take your point that some soundtracks are perhaps not the most memorable. Anyway,
I can't think of, other than Kiss from a Rose, I can't think of any other off the top of my head from Batman Forever, unless I'm looking at the actual soundtrack.
You choose Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me. That was another song on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
But the thing is, those songs didn't really make their way into the film. They were in the credits, not in the same way that Prince's music permeated Batman 89. Like, I mean, I love the Joker's vandalism of the museum, where they play Party Man and vandalize all of these famous works of art. But personally, Prince is, I feel like he's got a very 80s sound, so it dates the movie for me. But, you know, everyone has different opinions, and that's fine.
You, in this household, you love Prince, and there's no other thing about it. Whatever Luke is saying right now, I don't understand it because nothing's actually coming from his mouth. It's like, oh, I love Prince. Yes, I know. We all love Prince. Come on. There's no other opinion.
So to continue this comment, I remember Kiss from a Rose by Seal, which is part of Batman Forever soundtrack, by the way, not Batman and Robin. I thought we said Batman Forever.
Maybe I probably misspoke, but I meant to say Batman Forever.
I know that. Overly Sarcastic Productions loves it so much. They even made a sweet romantic rendition in most of their vids with love stories involved, plus a rock rendition in hard love moments. Easy now. 3239. The music video of that actually has deleted scenes from Batman Forever. One must wonder if they could become part of the possible Schumacher cut, which should also be inspired by, you guessed it, Peter David's moody novelization. The Nolanverse tracks are good, but there are many times where the Arkhamverse soundtracks did things better. Meantime, The Dark Knight may be a bit overrated, but gods, at least it's still a better movie than The Dark Knight Rises, the Bioshock Infinite of superhero movies. And we know how that game has lost its greatness in later years. And Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice.
What's happening in Bioshock?
He's just saying that he doesn't think that Bioshock Infinite is as good as the first, well, maybe even the first two.
Oh, I agree with that.
Got no words for the DCEU. A doomed cinematic universe is better off thrown away and forgotten. Unlike anti-Uncle Tom's Cabin literature and the novel Pamela, would be glad to neuralize, even the good stuff from our cringe-bleached minds. And why the praise on Ben Affleck? Have you guys ignored the numerous concerning scandals and allegations against him?
Who?
Who?
What? What are you talking about? Ben Affleck is an angel.
Well,
has never been a demon in his entire life.
I think the difference there is that when Ben Affleck has been called out for bad behaviour, he's put his hands up and said, "Yeah, I did that. I should try better." Yeah. And
I thought you were just talking about like the gambling and stuff like that. That stuff.
And also there's alcoholism as well.
Yeah, Luke is right. When Ben Affleck has done something, it doesn't take him long to do something that everybody in that type of situation should do. The very first thing is, I'm sorry. And he doesn't say, I'm sorry, but he says, I'm sorry. And then he tries to do better. Sometimes it fails, but alcoholism is a disease. And sometimes you redo those same mistakes, but the times that he has done them, I'm not saying he's like perfect and
no, of course not.
You should ignore those things. Don't ignore those things, but there's a very, very big difference between him and other people that have been in that situation. Is the fact that he has apologized and he has tried to do better.
But let's put it this way, there's a reason why we glossed over one of the most famous Lex Luthors in this podcast, because of his demonstration of how not to handle a scandal.
Yeah, and when there's proof out there and then you deny the proof, you were denying the victim is the person who should be, looked at, and you should try to be helping that victim. Yet you are denying something that there is proof for, and that, my friends, is bullshit.
Right, so to continue Big Mikey P's comment, and we'll try and get on a more jovial tone now.
That's fine.
Alas, no singing praises yet on Cape Crusaders soundtrack. Hope Season 2 onwards makes leaps and bounds of quality improvements when it comes to that. I remember Peppa Pig more with Phantom Strider disliking the fat shaming. I don't have any bad blood with the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Well, which one? The one from like the 50s?
I think he's talking about the hot dog song that you went on a 20-minute rant about.
Oh God, no. Just move on.
Skip it. I'm trying to. Let me. I actually need kids' cartoons to keep ballistic guns, though arms race involving a deadlier plasma laser weapon is still allowed. Grim conspiracies, think Project Cadmus, but more scarily competent and successful. And the occasional riveting battle scene. Anyone want an exosuited Army Blight Nokeda versus combat-framed Star Butterfly Diaz showdown? No.
I love you, Big Mikey P, and you are one of my favorite people. But please hate the Mickey Mouse hot dog song with me. Please hate it with me.
PSAs may need to be almost extinct. Static Shock did those at least twice, and they just felt so awkward. However, similar but more entertaining skits like the end credits ones from Cardcaptor Sakura should be given attention. 1 hour, 6 minutes, 40 seconds. Not really. He's basically a shout out to a German planes manufacturer from World War One. Can confirm that Star Wars Legends novels by James Luceno and Brian Daley are really good. Beats Dave Filoni's and even Jon Favreau's Disney stuff. If there's one good thing about Robotech, at least they gave the Southern Cross anime a proper ending. 1 hour, 8 minutes, 5 seconds. That was too much of a ballsy change. At least the OG Macross anime spared good old global Claudia Shami to me, surprisingly. She's quite a favourite side character. Me. Must be her cute design and distinct Japanese voice performance, Kim and Vanessa. Arthur is too long a show for me. Abstaining for now. 1 hour, 14 minutes, 57 seconds. Time stamping. I'm glad he said that. 1 hour, 16, 11 seconds. That's the thing. Mammy Two Shoes may be stereotypical, but there's something about her that transcends away the negative aspects of her stereotypes. In comparison, her Caucasian replacement in certain edits just ended up unpopular and bland. Powers Booth was miscast Lex Luthor in Brainiac Attacks, and that's all.
Do an episode that long. That was
I know, it was a long one. And I can't believe, actually, we forgot to talk about Powers Booth as Lex Luthor, but you haven't seen Brainiac Attacks, so that's probably why it didn't show up in your notes. I like Powers Booth's voice, but you're right, his performance was very different. Okay, so the next comment is from Julia Rowell again. Didn't miss it this time. Hello, true believers, Mary Marvel and the goddamn Catman Luke. Oh, that's a much better.
Yeah.
I am the goddamn Catman.
You've got you've got several choices today to change your name.
To City Hall tomorrow to change my name.
It's Sunday.
Damn. It's me, your okay pal Julia, and I want to talk about my favourite soundtracks from these Batman movies and shows I watched growing up in the 90s and 2000s. As a kid, my first Batman movie I ever watched on the big screen was Batman Forever, and I like the music of the movie so much by Elliot Goldenthal. I love the zany cartoon theme of Jim Carrey's Riddler, and the brassy and baritone theme of Two-Face. I love over-the-top main theme of Batman and Robin from 1997 too. I love Poison Ivy's theme, very campy and seductive, fits Uma Thurman. I wish we had an Ivy and Harley movie because I love those two. And I like the Mr. Freeze theme for Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze, and yes, I adore the ice puns. I just like the neon camp gayness of Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. I also like the Method Man song he did for Batman Forever called The Riddler. Go listen to it, Mary and Luke. I also like the song More Fun For Me by Moloko. I really got into their music because of Batman and Robin. And I like the Seal song Kissed by a Rose too. And that one song that plays when Nemo goes to his run-down apartment in Batman Forever. I feel like Batman Forever made me a fan of Batman in 95, next to the animated movie I watch regularly. Now, I heart emoji the Shirley Walker music from Beat-Ass a lot. So many great themes. My favourite is the ones with Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy in their episodes. I love the Two-Face theme, Clayface theme in his debut episodes. I love the Man-Bat theme. That, to me, was my jam. Just felt like something from a Universal horror movie. I also like the music from Superman the Animated Series. I loved Lex Luthor's theme, jazzy and slightly evil. Metallo, crazy Malcolm McDowell cyborg who can't be bargained with. He will not stop until Superman's dead. Darkseid then, and Michael Ironside's voice, is what I listen to when reading the Kirby comics and Morrison's JLA comics. I love the New Gods theme. The Parasite Athena felt like something from these... I think it's the Parasite theme, felt like something from the 80s slasher. Estes to me needed to be big and brassy with its music because it was a Kirby tribute, and I saw it. I listened to all this when reading most DC comics written by Grant Morrison, Paul Dini, and the post-crisis era of DC, 1986 to 1999. I like the Danny Elfman music of 1989 and Returns a lot. I listened to those when reading Alan Grant and Norm Breyfogel's Detective Comics and Grant Morrison's Batman Inc. run. These all live rent-free in my head because they added so much to the movie, and I even feel those 80s and 90s comics I read so much of. I hated the music of Batman vs. Superman, and I just hated Ben Affleck as Batman because his Batman is a murderer, and he's as bad Superman, Cavill in that movie, and Man of Steel. I hate everything about it, and that Wonder Woman theme is annoying, and Zack Snyder is a hack director who ruined these characters for me during the 2010s. I stopped reading their comics during the New 52 and Rebirth. I also hate the Snyder movies with a passion. I have nothing good to say about those movies and that director.
I'll go home.
I'll get my coat, yeah.
I'll get my coat.
And I didn't like the emo music of The Batman either. Ooh, ouch. Between this and Snyder, I'm just tired of realistic, grimdark, grounded Batman. Because it's not fun to watch, and Patterson Batman is a mopey SOB. Just like B. I wonder who B is. Oh, Ben Affleck. Being a murderous SOB. I don't like the music in Cape Crusader because it wasn't Shirley Walker. The music in Cape Crusader didn't have any energy. It wasn't bold or brassy. It wasn't memorable. None of the villains have their own themes. The music just felt flat and forgettable. Anyway, I have a question. Are you currently reading any of the Ultimate Universe titles? If so, what's your favourite? Mine right now is Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Spider-Man, and Ultimate Black Panther. I feel I'm getting more out of those Marvel books, where it feels like the heroes got a chance to save their world over the grimdark DC Absolute Universe that I'm not liking right now, because emotionally, just now, I don't have it in me to read something so dystopian, especially from DC, who always does dark stories. Yes, I am reading them all. I think I like Spider-Man the most. X-Men's pretty good as well. It's very bold and different, and I can appreciate that. And I do like the Ultimates. I think that's been very experimental. I like the Doctor Doom flashback issue where the top half of the page was the story in the past, and the bottom half of the page was the story in the present, and how it like reflected each other. It was very, very well done. Very good use of the comic book medium, and I think that probably wouldn't read very well digitally. Maybe it will. I'm not certain.
I have not. But what I have been reading is a lot of stuff about type 1 diabetes. So if anybody wants to know anything about type 1 diabetes,
then that's what the next Totally Schway flip side's about. Type 1 diabetes.
Wait.
I'm jumping ahead. It's been nice, Mary and Luke, chatting with you all. I hope I'm not annoying you both with my rambling about my favourite things. Not at all. It's what we asked for.
Yeah, why would that annoy us? I like I've said in the past, I really like when people have different opinions than us, because it's so many times you go online and you see these people that have like this aesthetically pleasing social life, right? And they're these huge influencers, and nobody ever disagrees with them or anything like that. And it's like, okay, so how many comments have you deleted and stuff like that? And I'm like, well, it would be such a dull, boring world if everybody felt the same way that I did.
Yeah, I never delete comments from people that just disagree with me. If they start being abusive or homophobic or xenophobic or whatever, in the bin.
And also, when you're disagreeing with us, it's not like a malicious thing. You also tell us why. And I find that incredibly interesting. And I think it's great that we could have this, like, a good conversation around it. And we don't have to agree. But it's not like, no, that's wrong. It's like, no, I don't agree with you because.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm listening.
Right, next we have David Carney, who says, hi, Mary and Luke.
Hola.
Listening to you both before joining the gaming group. Don't know if you know, Prince makes an appearance in Batman 89. Listening to this gave me an idea. What is the greatest superhero theme? I love the Danny Elfman Batman theme. And the Shirley Walker's music on BTAS and Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Shirley Walker doesn't get enough credit. Have a good week, both. I think probably the best, most well-known superhero theme is probably John Williams' Superman. Probably. Thoughts, Mary?
Well, it's that and the Super Friends.
Oh, really? Super Friends?
Well, I think that's because a lot of the time that was playing in the background when I was growing up. I never watched it, to be honest with you. I really didn't like it. I think it's because I was a kid and I was like, I don't like cartoons. Ew. Why are you watching cartoons? That's so kiddish. I was like 5. Like, only kids watch cartoons. Ugh. But yeah, so that one, and oh my god, X-Men.
Yeah, X-Men's a very good one.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yes.
Because that plays, I'm not joking you, at least 3 times a day. I'm like, yeah. And then it always ends up, was it that Eye of the Tiger? It literally starts from X-Men and Eye of the Tiger. Don't know how it gets there, but it is.
Interesting mashup.
I know, at least 3 times a day. for the past 30 years.
All right, so the next comment then is from Ryan Jones, who says, my personal favourite Batman music are Shirley Walker's Batman the Animated Series music, 1989's Batman theme tune, 60s Batman theme tune, Arkham Games music, Batman Brave and the Bold theme tune, and Matt Reeves' The Batman music. I'm sorry, Mary, but I don't like Ben Affleck's Batman because he is the most bland version of the character, and thought the DCEU he is very inconsistent. Normally, inconsistent doesn't bother me in my favourite movies and TV shows, but he is an exception. Luke, I don't know why, but you forgot to read my comment on the last video. I do remember writing one. Yeah, as Mary said, it didn't show up. Don't know why. YouTube's being weird. I promise I'm not forgetting anything. It's just I load up the comments and then I go through them and read them.
Yeah, it's to say if it ever sounds like I'm annoyed with when I talk about that, it's because I am, because there's no reason for any of y'all's comments to not show up, but it just does that sometimes. And I have looked into it, and the answer that I get is shit happens. And I'm like, well, why? Can you just tell me why their comments aren't showing up? And why my comments don't show up sometimes? And it's no. So I'm really sorry about that, but I'm very annoyed when that happens because I love hearing from you guys. And I love hearing Luke read off your comments too.
All right, next we have Doc Widener, and Doc says, thank goodness you're here. Glad you like the topic. Back-to-back days of podcasts reminds me of 8 or 9 months ago when I binged back episodes when you two were doing Cape Crusader. Republic serials. At the old Ohio Sci-Fi Marathon, 24 hours of sci-fi movies and trailers and such that goes from noon on Saturday to, in theory, noon on Sunday. Often runs long. Anyhow, they played episodes of the World War II era one you mentioned before each of the 10 or so films. The theme that year was summer blockbuster related, so I think they had either Terminator or Terminator 2 as well as Lady Terminator, which is an Indonesian movie I can say I watched. But yeah, the serial was a product of its time. Sadly, the kind of overt racism is making a comeback, it seems. Only if we allow it. The 66 Batman theme is quite memorable. That and the old Green Hornet both slapped, as the kids say these days. Allegedly. 89, Bat Dance hit number 1 on the US charts. Prince's fourth number 1, Party Man, reached number 5. The album as a whole hit 1 as well. I heard Bat Dance all the time that summer. The Danny Elfman Shirley Walker soundtrack was a bit harder to find at first because I didn't expect the interest for the non-Prince music. The pop music was what I was originally talking about as favourite music. Oh, so favourite like licensed tracks. Interesting. Mary's U2 experience is the nature of the top 40 radio. As I said earlier, that was what the Prince music for 89 was like on WNCI 97.9 and I think 92X. 92X, Columbus eventually admitted defeat to WNCI and switched through several formats over the years. It has been what I call pop country for the last couple of decades. Poor Hans Zimmer. For folks my age, the first thing we'll think of for him is Miami Vice. I think I will go with Mask of the Phantasm for the best orchestral score, though maybe split it with, say, Batman Returns for the best live-action orchestral score. I do think Edward Scissorhands may be his best film score. The best romance song also goes to Face to Face from Batman Returns. Arms of Orion from 98 would be second and Kiss from a Rose third. Has Mary seen the Seal Super Bowl ad? Best pop song, the U2 Kiss Me Once. 1. Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me. Yeah. The Bat Dance is a very close second. So, Mary, have you seen Seal's Super Bowl lad?
I'm pretty sure I have. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Doc. If Seal puts something out, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to listen to it. And then it's always going to be in my heart. Because I really like Seal, if you guys didn't know. I can't really fault him in his music or some of the decisions that he makes in terms of like commercials and stuff, because I think there was a credit card commercial he did it must have been late 90s, like a couple years after he did that soundtrack, and I actually loved that. I was like, I never wanted to get a credit card, but I was like, you know what, if I were to, I'm definitely gonna get that one because Seal says it's okay. I love my explanations, but not really. I don't really love my explanations because they're far beyond what they should be.
So, continuing the comment, hot dog, hot diggity dog. References. I have been known to say, do it, Rockapella, to somewhat confused faces. I wish those Carmen Sandiego episodes were available. I also will finish a hanging Where in the World with Is Carmen Sandiego. There were good 80s cartoons. Sadly, they tended to be short-lived. Thundar the Barbarian kind of reminds me of the of the Shannara series by Terry Brooks, if you ever read any of that. I haven't, no. Post-apocalyptic world with a mix of technology and sword and sorcery. I also enjoyed the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. Yes, the Dungeon Master had a Yoda vibe and Venga a bit of Vader to him. And yes, the animation was a product of its time, but it had an interesting story. If you can tell me a good story, I can overlook a lot of things.
The D&D one?
Yes.
I believe my stepdad watched that.
Yeah, I watched it as well, and it was fine.
I don't remember disliking it, so that's something.
I've been catching up on Harley Quinn. While I probably favour Jesse Eisenberg's Lex the most. Okay, kidding. Unlike the question, is there a bad Alfred? I do think there are bad Lexes. Oh, really? I was a kid for the Christopher Reeves films, but I never liked Gene Hackman's take all that much. Jesse is even worse. On the plus side, I really do like Michael Rosenbaum's young Lex. I would probably go with Clancy Brown, but Juan Carlos Esposito does a great job on Harley Quinn. I do think it's a bit unfair because I think the bad Lexes have less to do with the acting and more with maybe casting and definitely writing. Shorter comment today because of the back-to-back nature of podcasts. Was that shorter than usual? Maybe. Time is a construct.
I once wrote Luke. I think it was sometime in January. I wrote him it was like 7 texts in a row. But it wasn't actually like 7 texts in a row. It was 7 texts over the day. And he got home. He had gone to work, by the way, and he said, I didn't miss you because you didn't let me miss you because you sent the text. I was like, well, first off, 3 of those were cat pictures. So I sent you 4 texts. So if he ever jokingly complains about your stuff being long, don't listen to him.
Okay.
Because he thinks a few pictures and that over 12 hours is a lot.
Right, next we have Screen Wiper, who says the Tim Burton Batman theme is a rip-off of the sad theme from Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, first heard in Series 1 in 1984 and composed by iconic musical geniuses like Mike O'Donnell and Junior Campbell. If you don't believe me, there is a video on YouTube comparing Thomas' music with these guys made to other music that seems to have ripped it off. The 1989 Batman theme and the TTTE of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends sad theme are directly compared in that. YouTube won't let me link it even with spaces in the URL, so you'll have to look it up yourself. It's called Unrelated Songs That Sound Like Thomas the Tank Engine. 4656. Glad you said the Arkham games Batman theme is a catchier version of the Nolan Batman theme because I think so too. Was going to say it if you never. Funny to me how Mary thinks the Dark Knight theme is overrated. Surprised the Joker theme in that didn't get mentioned, but loves Batman 89 because I think both Tim Burton Batman films are very overrated. They're not crap, but I do not live to the best Batman ever hype I often see from Gen Xers, not even close. One thing I hated in both the Burton and Schumacher Batman films is how Batman had to turn his entire upper body to look around because he couldn't turn his head. It looks ridiculous. One of my favourite lines in either Batman Begins or The Dark Knight is Batman says to Alfred how he needs to alter his costume so that he can turn his head. Got to be a dig at how stiff and daft Batman appears in the movies that preceded a few years earlier. Lex Luthor next week. I will take this opportunity to shout out Superman Red Sun, which is brilliant and did an iteration of Lex Luthor I really enjoyed. Yeah, their Lex Luthor was a bit more not benevolent, not that way at all. He wasn't really interested in proving himself. It was more just about he had to defeat the communist Superman because he was capitalist, like the epitome of capitalism. And ultimately he did win and actually ushered in a new age of prosperity for humanity that ditched capitalism, which I thought was kind of funny. Anyway, and last thing. So, considering I read Julia Rowell's missing comment from the last episode, Ryan Jones has kindly provided his missing comment from the last episode as well. So I'll just go through that one quickly, and then we can wrap up. My favourite 90s cartoons are Batman the Animated Series, X-Men, Superman the Animated Series, Rugrats, Darkwing Duck, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, the 90s, Timon and Pumbaa Show, finally, The Powerpuff Girls. Don't worry, Mary, I do get the joke, but sometimes I do get offended when some people make jokes about me because sometimes People that make jokes about me were bullying me at school, and sometimes I don't always know if someone is joking or not.
I will always tell you if I'm joking because I am exactly the same way, to the point that we had to pause this for a few minutes because I had to go eat some lunch. And while I was eating my lunch, I had made a joke to Luke yesterday, I think.
Yes.
It was yesterday, and then he made a joke back to me, and I thought it was funny, and then I've been thinking about it literally since then, but not like in a, oh, that's the only thing I'm thinking about. And I had to ask him while I was eating. I was like, did you mean that joke or?
Yeah. We're joking, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's that's a like a really small one, but um yeah, I get it. People are really crap and bullies just suck.
I do agree with Zehanot10. Peppa Pig is the worst. It talks down to children and lies to them by saying that ice skating is easy. It is not, I know, because when I was in Disneyland in Paris, there was ice skating rink in front of one of the hotels in the resort, and I was not good at it and kept falling down. And it does teach bad lessons to children. It's like it was made by Angelica from Rugrats.
Yeah.
Today it has been foggy where I live. I hope I'm not pestering you, but have you considered to do Totally Spies on Totally Schway Flipside? No, because I've never really watched it.
I cannot remember which one of my cousins watched it. I'm pretty sure it was one of the younger ones. I remember them watching it, and I'd walk in on it, and I didn't hate it, but I don't know if that would be Luke's cup of tea.
Yeah,
See
I
what I
don't really
did there?
know.
I did an English joke, but
Yeah.
well, think about it because we are doing like first episodes of different TV shows. Maybe spoiler to what we're doing next week, but yeah, we'll think about it.
Right. I am mainly an optimistic person, and despite what the world says at the moment, or in America at least, I am not going to give in to temptation and lose hope and become very cynical and become a member of the Justice Lords because it's not going to solve all the problems. The reason I brought it up is because I have an addiction to a YouTube I used to watch, but I don't anymore because he was a bit too far when it comes to solving the Americans' problems. I was doing well in my recovery of not watching him, but unfortunately, I have recently relapsed, and recently he praised the mass shooter that killed the healthcare CEO. I know the CEO was horrible, but I'm not going to solve the problems of the American healthcare system. I'm scared because there are a lot of me and him, and not just because we have similar interests, and I'm worried that one day I will lose my morals and become a lock-up sadist like him. But I should not be worried. Unlike him, I still have my humanity as well as my family to help me. It's a shame that he turned to be an extremist because he had a lot of interests, like being huge Disney fans, loving the Muppets and animation, by the way. I don't know if you started to record the last episode before I edited these lines or forgot to say them, but anyway, and it's making me want a Batman and Frozen crossover movie. In the last episode, I regrettably Googled Hulk Hogan because he sounded familiar. And then when the results came, I remembered that he was in 2 episodes of A-Team. I can see why you two don't like him. He is a racist and a Trump endorser. Speaking of Meghan Markle, the British press and Piers Morgan have got a weird obsession with her, especially Piers Morgan, who has what I like to call the Meghan Markle fetish. Oh dear.
He really does. He really does. Um, about the optimism, I love the fact that you're an optimistic person because some of us have over time, and not just with the current political climate, we've lost our optimism because that just happens when we grow older and all of that. And for someone like myself, I have lost a lot of optimism that I used to have because there are a lot of reasons, but to hear that you are so willing to just you're not willing to give that up, it gives me hope because I want that optimism back. I want to be able to feel like the world is gonna um be a really great place, and hopefully it will be one day, but it's really great to see that you're still optimistic.
It's always darkest before the dawn.
And then there's that quote. I cannot remember who said it. It'll come to me like 5 minutes after we record this. But in terms of the political climate in the world, the United States of America is where I am from. And they have had I was born in 88. I'll give you guys my real age. And even since then, there've been so many ups and downs. And what's great about the American people, that I can say because I'm American, is that we don't give up without a fight. And I think the people of today will fight to make that country peaceful. And I think they'll get there too. And I cannot wait for people to be able to pat themselves on the back and said, you know what, I was part of the solution and not part of the problem. And I think most of the people that listen to this podcast are part of the solution, because I don't believe that any of you guys are filled with hate or unkindness. I think everybody is capable of just saying, you know what? Let's just love each other. Let's just be friends and neighbors that just exist. We can all coexist together without all of the shitty things going on in the world. I've sworn 3 times this podcast. But yeah, I'm very happy to see your optimism. And like I said, I'm very hopeful, or I get hope from that. And I really appreciate all of you for giving us your time and your patience with my explaining things or not explaining things properly. So thank you guys. And I think, is that the last comment?
Yes.
What a great comment to end off on. Honestly, guys, I love all of you. Even if you do like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, I still love you. And I want y'all to have a really great week ahead. Hopefully, with the spring coming and all of that, we can finally have some of those birds come back that I like so much. I just get really happy when I hear birds. Not seagulls, but just like the parakeets and stuff. So, next week, we are going to talk about Batwoman. We're going to watch the first episode. We're not going to watch the whole series just yet. It's kind of like what we did with Smallville. I want to watch the first episode of Batwoman, and then we'll thoughts, questions, concerns. Probably no concerns, but yeah. I hope y'all are having a good time, and even if you're having a bad time, I hope it gets better. If not, if you don't have a good time, email me and I'll send you pictures of Gilly giving me the side eye. All right, have a really great week, guys.